Good morning. My name is Joe Hannon. I'm an enforcement officer with the London Borough of Harrow Council. Just like to welcome you to a Q&A session in relation to fly tipping, littering and waste management and duty of care. We've been asked a lot about what Harrow Council are going to do about dealing with the issue of fly tipping. Unfortunately, fly tipping has become the norm. It's become socially acceptable to see bags of rubbish dumped on the street near the litter bins. The way to deal with this is the behaviour needs to change. So the behaviour of the people that are committing these offences, that needs to change. And also we want people to stop and say, this is not acceptable, you mustn't do this. So until a behavioural change happens, then no matter what the council do, the fly tipping will always remain an issue. One of the questions we received was in relation to specific fly tipping incidents in Merlin Crescent, Edgware and Overbrook Walk and along the brook itself. We have only a small team, so obviously we can't get to every area every day. So in that case we rely on you, the members of the public, to inform us. So report any fly tipping incident through the website. If you have evidence of where it's come from, please email flytipping@harrow.gov.uk. Only use this email address where there is evidence. Please don't use it to report normal fly tipping. You can do that through the app or on the web page. Many of you may have seen the recent post we did in relation to the fly tipping at Harrow Cemetery. The fly tipping, we believe, was done by illegal waste carriers. They go around people's houses offering to take the waste away at a very low cost and then proceeding to fly tip. What a lot of people don't realise is that everybody in the UK has a duty of care to ensure that any waste produced on their property is disposed of in a lawful manner. One of the ways that to do this is that when you give your waste to somebody else, you are required to check that they are licensed to carry waste. You can do this by going on the Environment Agency website and carrying out the checks. You can also ring the Environment Agency. And then you must obtain what we call a waste transfer note or a receipt for the removal of the waste. That way then, if your waste is fly tipped subsequently, then the person who fly tipped is responsible, not the person who has given their waste away. If you do not carry out these checks, you will be guilty of an offence and you can be fined up to £200. We've been seeing a lot of posts over the last number of months about fines that have been issued by the council. A lot of comments have indicated that the fines are too low, they should be £1,000, £5,000, whatever. I just need to clarify something here. The fines for fly tipping and littering and other such offences are set by legislation. They are not decided by Harrow Council or an individual. They are set by legislation. Therefore, we can only issue those fines as set out in legislation. And then those fines then have to be ratified by Harrow Council before we can issue them. So the only time where a person can be fined higher than what legislation sets is where we would take cases to the magistrates' courts, where they can issue an unlimited fine to people found guilty of fly tipping. But at a local level, for fixed penalty notices, we are set within the guidelines set out in legislation. Again, we've been getting lots of comments and posts about the different types of land that the council clear and fly tipping on different types of land. So public land, the council will investigate and we will clear any waste within an agreed time. Private land, where the land is owned by somebody or an entity, the council will investigate, but the clearance and the cost of clearance will be borne by the landowner. There is a third type of land, which unfortunately we have quite a lot of in Harrow, that being what we call orphan land. is where there is no owner. A lot of service roads in South Harrow, Rayners Lane, Edgware are in a situation where they're not owned by anybody, and therefore the council can, while we can investigate fly tipping in these locations, the removal of the waste causes a big problem. If it was council land, we could remove it. If it was private land, we could make the landowners responsible for the clearance. But because nobody owns it, we are left in a dilemma, because the council have no responsibility and then there is nobody else to hold accountable for it. What we would like in that situation is for anybody who is affected by the waste dumped in their location to get together and then get the waste removed. But so I'd like to address some of the posts we've been having in relation to the service road at the rear of North Parade, Mollison Way, Edgware. This service road is a privately owned service road, owned in part by residents of Millay Gardens and part by the freeholders of properties on North Parade, Mollison Way. Over the last number of years, the council have had to intervene and clear this alleyway of fly tipping, abandoned vehicles, and deal with all sorts of issues at the public expense, even though this is privately owned land. Now that is going to stop, so we are now going to hold the landowners to account. So they are now going to be responsible for the cleanliness and the maintenance and the removal of all fly tipping. Notices have been served on all property owners, and stating the terms of what they need to do to manage their land. If that notice isn't complied with, we will look to escalate that to potentially prosecution. The people in the area themselves, they need to take responsibility for their own actions. 90% of that waste is coming from people in the locality, people who live in that area. It's not been driven in by people from outside the borough. This is happening by people, this has been caused by people who live in the locality. That needs to stop. The attitude needs to stop. The council can't keep on getting involved on private land when there is owners that should be taken. CCTV cameras are most useful where a vehicle is involved in the commission of the offence, so we can identify the vehicle and the registration mark and then obtain registered keepers' details, and then we can hold them responsible. Where a camera captures an individual committing an offence, the identifying that individual is sometimes very difficult. So cameras don't really provide a one-stop solution for fly tipping. Also, due to the expense of cameras, the quality required is quite expensive for the cameras, and so therefore we can't just put cameras in willy-nilly at any location, because we don't have the funds to do so. But where we identify regular hotspots, we can use targeted enforcement, including cameras, to try and capture people committing offences in hotspot areas. But that requires people to keep on reporting so that we can use the data that we get to identify the hotspots.